Today we're standing up against something that is unfortunately done scarcely, right? And what is that? For one, that's working out whilst on a trip, which is pretty classic reasoning out of anything. You know, I'd say holiday, of any variety. You know, maybe it's like a bank holiday, maybe it's like maybe a whatever, and you're like, ooh, or no, not us, but someone could say, I bet the gym's probably closed. Screw it, I'm skipping today. Oh, dude, come on, it's spring break. You're sure it's gonna work out, or it's anything along those lines. You know, there's an unfortunate percentage of people where they're not actively looking for a reason to skip a lift, but it's just this subconscious, like, detector. You know how the predator can see in regular, like, light, but also infrared. It's the same thing, right? They're looking at a regular day, like, okay, I'm going to work out, I'm going to this, I'm going to that. The idea of it feels good, so okay, let's plan on it. And then in reality, switch to the infrared vision, and then they say, ooh, I don't know, I said I wanted to do legs and I wanted to squat like Clarence Kennedy, but I don't know, now it's actually time to do it. There's two scenarios there. With a leg day, maybe skip the gym entirely, or just do a lighter lift or a more chill lift, like back or arms, which I guess is better than nothing, but the principle of it is still rough. You know, it's just not ideal. So, yeah, plan for today, get my quads, hamstrings, and adductors as pumped as possible. I don't think I'm going to squat crazy heavy. If I do, it's going to be like 3 plates for reps, not like a 5 plate for 10 kind of situation. But I'll see, because I've got a leg extension, this leg curl, adductor machine, seated leg press, or I guess, you know, regular leg press, and then a squat rack. So that's all there is. And that's not a problem. I mean, honestly, if you boiled it down to just these 5, like as many fancy pants machines as there are out there for, you know, whatever, like a kneeling leg curl single leg or an individual leg extension, you know, they're all just slight variations of the basic. You know, every breath stems from sun breathing, where, you know, you got a leg extension or a squat. Oh, well, you know, squats, that's a lot of weight on your back. Let's do a leg press. And that's its own topic that gets me a little bit, not annoyed, but just kind of like confused, because I see a lot of discussion on certain movements, you know, being placed higher on the scale of quality of, like, for a workout, where it's like, oh, you got to do this. This is way better than this. Why would you ever do blank? Why would you ever do whatever? And it's like, well, you know, I understand your logic, I guess. You know, the idea of, like, you know, just how much activation does that movement cause, or whatever. Like, I get the gist. But if that whole approach is like, okay, what is the best? What's the best for you? What gets your quads the craziest? You know, burning, squeezing, pumped, fatigued, everything. Like, what does that for you that you like? You know, like that's to say, as much as we could say, okay, there's proper sprinting technique, you still got to actually run it. You know, somebody could tell me how to sprint a 100-meter dash like Usain Bolt, and it would never happen. I think I've probably got a strong 16 seconds, maybe a little quicker than that, but definitely, I don't know. I've not done a full-on sprint of any distance for quite a while, so I don't think I'm interested in testing that. But sure, you know, we can talk about what to do, and then there's still doing it. Right? And I want to focus on that doing it part. I know that a leg extension is going to really let me squeeze my quads, especially if I go lighter and really burn it. Or once my quads are already kind of pumped up and fatigued, well, then now I could get under even just 2 plates on a squat or on a Smith machine and kind of just pump out reps a little bit quicker and get a bit more of just like a blood siphoning effect. You know, like if you've ever done a set of leg press a bit lower weight for more like 25 or like into the 30 rep kind of zone, and I don't do that a ton, but you know, when I do, it totally wrecks my quads, you know. So it's just something to keep in mind, right? Try to change it up. Do you know, look up somebody else's workout, maybe copy theirs. Don't take it too far. I was you know, I see a couple comments every so often where it's I should do the Tom Platz leg workout, and I guess I got to look it up to see if that would even be feasible. But you know, it's worth a look, of course, from the freaking from the Golden Eagle himself. But if today's anything like yesterday, then I'm fairly certain that the gym is going to be, if not totally empty, maybe just have like 2 guys. So there's nothing stopping me from getting my legs as pumped up as possible. Probably within an hour 20-ish. A lift leg chest, if I'm quick and I don't have to wait for anything, chest can be 40 minutes. Honestly, chest could be 30 minutes if I was going a little bit quicker, but probably 40 is about right. And for legs, it's just going to take a little longer. You did hitting full quads, full hamstrings, plus some adductor. It'll just be a little bit of a longer one, you know. So don't when guys, I've seen this a lot, and this really kind of, I don't want to say grinds my gears, but just itches me the wrong way, just a touch, is guys will essentially say, well, you know, if you can't get it done in an hour, you shouldn't even be there. Or if you can't get your workout done in 30 minutes, you shouldn't even be working out with your little liberal sissy hands. And I get the logic of an older guy saying that, or at least commenting it, is like, you know, you should just bring it, and then it shouldn't take that long. But I mean, that's so black and white. You can't actually just say it like that. That's not a rule. You know, I mean, I've had lifts that were into like the 2-hour range or 2.5 hour. Not recently, you know, this is a while ago, but still, you know, as long as you're bringing it, I think you're good. But yeah, let's see what kind of hype we can generate in this little hole in the wall gym. Yeah, this thing is just barely younger than me, 2004. So a little rudimentary, but squeeze, it's right there. So let's get quads finished, or no, let's get hams finished, and then get ready to really thrash quads. Squats will be involved. Okay. Oh my goodness. There we go. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh. All right, 2 more of these. 2 more of these. I'm getting excited to use that old squat rack. Okay. Oh my gosh. All right, 1 more. Let's get quads warmed up and get some squats started. I'll come back for a little more hams after. Ooh. Oh. Oh my God. All right, yeah, there we go. So that workout did not get cut short, but you know, it's not super cool if you're, you know, if you're in the gym to just set up a tripod with a freaking, you know, fancy pants camera right in somebody's face. You know, that's not the whole point of the gym is to work out, right? It's not to show yourself working out. So it got a little packed in there with how cramped it was. But no, so before that set of squats, which is almost 100% one of the heavier sets that had ever been done in that little space, I camped out on the leg extension, which was like a weird combo leg extension built into the actual cable stack on one of the machines on the side, which was actually a lot smoother than I thought. So start warming up on those. Single leg, only 50 pounds, really nothing wild, just to get things moving and kind of warm, but not weakened per se, right? My hamstrings are already warm from hitting those hamstring curls first, and in between sets of hamstring curls, I was going over to the back corner doing some adductors. Nothing wild. The stack wasn't crazy heavy, but just a quick 15 in between each set of curls, just to kind of get that whole stabilizing side of things warm, which is something that's a little bit underappreciated, even by me lately. That's one thing I need to get in the gym, is an adductor machine, because that is a good one to camp out on. You will get to a point where you're going to want to wear specific, like longer, brief underwear if you're going to be walking around, because if your adductors get thick enough, well, then your legs are going to be rubbing up against each other when they walk. I've had a few instances, especially like walking around in like a wet swimsuit, like after going to the beach or something, where I totally chafe my shit up, and it's just not cool, because usually when I'm bulked, because my adductors is freaking, you know, that's a classic Rich Piana quote, where he's like, I don't want big legs anymore. I've had them, and I don't want them, because they're just not what I want in the moment. Which, you know, that's a very rare take to be able to say. Not to have, but to be able to say. Like, I've had huge legs before, and I don't like it. Personally, I'm not tired of it yet. I want them to be bigger. I'm certainly not there yet. But, so leg extension, single leg, 50, 60, 70, just enough to get warm. And then the process of, you know, getting ready for that actual legit working set isn't like pyramiding up or anything. At least how I have always liked it is, okay, put my little plate down to elevate my heels, throw a plate on the side, unrack it, do like 2 reps, put it back. How did that feel? Are my hips good? Are my quads feel good? Do my knees feel good? How's my back feel? Do I every time I add a plate, so then I waited a few minutes, did 2 plates, did a rep, or not a few minutes, like a minute, and then 3 plates, and then 4 plates, and every time I do an additional plate, that's me thinking, okay, are all systems green? Right? Am I good here with this weight? Am I not going to hurt myself? Does this feel feasible? All right, yes. Throw on a 35 and a 10 because there were no more 45s, only the 4, or only the 8 rather. And I tried throwing on like some of the spring clips, but I could tell they were a little loose. Sometimes you can kind of like wrench them and basically tighten the clip on your own. This one didn't seem to want to go for me today, so I grabbed some of these old school metal collars, and those actually were pretty good. They added a little bit of heft to the set, so really that was 500, because those were totally 2.5 pounds. And even if they weren't, I'm going to say they were. So that might actually be my first set of 500 pounds flat, because I never really stopped there. Like, usually I'm kind of going by at least 10s. Yeah, I don't usually break it down into 5-pound increments. So if I'm doing a heavier set than normal, that's at least a 5 or a 10 on either side, or a 25 or whatever. You know, not so much getting down to the micro loading of, you know, a 2.5. And I'm not saying that that's not appropriate at times, like purely for the sake of continual overload. But I mean, unless you're really powerlifting with fully calibrated plates, I don't think that there's a margin of error below 10-pound jumps, because the plates aren't actually all going to even weigh the same. You know, I mean, if you go to a like any different kind of gym and you actually took in a scale and threw a plate on and threw another plate on and threw another plate on, it would probably kind of trigger some OCD for you, because you'd be like, oh crap, I know that that one weighs 48 and that this one weighs 43, or that this one weighs whatever, you know. And the grungier the plate, or the metal cast ones, sometimes they can be pretty wild, you know. And I guess if you're a gym owner, that's at least a pretty decent fix to make it lighter. You know, maybe I don't think anyone at a Planet Fitness would do this, but let's say you've got a private gym, you got all steel plates. I guess you probably wouldn't want to mess up your plates. But if you had a plate that was 48 pounds and it was just cast iron, well, you know, give somebody a Gatorade, throw them outside in the back with some protection goggles, and just have them like grind the shit out of it, and like a balanced pattern on the back, and then just, you know, get it to that 45 pounds. Right? Adding weight would be a little trickier. Maybe you'd have to throw some magnets on or something, or just whatever. But at least bringing it down to the right weight is I'd imagine a relatively simple process, you know. But either way, 5 on, big breaths, and an Attack on Titan kind of funk edit playing at the same time. That was good. And that's one thing that I am particular about, is I like to have a mirror right in front of me in a squat set. Like, if there's a squat rack that's when it's just out in the open, like, it's fine. It doesn't totally throw me off. Like, I'm still good. I can still get a good workout in. But I would certainly prefer up against the wall with a mirror. It's kind of a little easier for me to visualize, like, where I am, you know, because I can see, okay, I'm getting low, I'm right there. Boom, okay, shoot up. And I also can kind of see if I'm wobbling any kind of specific way. But in terms of mental cues, you know, not to turn this into just a squat talk, but I'm thinking a few things very specifically. For one, I'm thinking big brace, keep my back as straight as possible. If anything, maybe even imagine it a little bit arched, just, you know, to make sure I'm actually at least totally straight. And then I'm trying to keep my head at least up. What I don't want to do is let my head fall forward, because where your head leans, or where you're looking, right, your body is going to follow. So if I'm trying to keep a very upright vertical stance here, you know, it doesn't even look normal to have your back upright straight and then your head down. You're turning your back in like a weird S curve. You know, I want it to be pretty much in line. So that's my main thing. And then in terms of width, like feet wise, foot stance, do Do you step on a plate? Do you just go totally flat-footed? There's a certain amount of preference which is just going to stem from your own biomechanics. How long are your knees? Or no. How long are your shins? How long are your femurs? Is your hips, making your quads want to really flare out, or your knees want to really flare out? Or are they kind of in line where you can keep them pretty close to just going straight out in front of you? There's not a specific answer. That's kind of something you'll just have to uncover for yourself. I used to squat when I first started. This is when I can only do maybe 300 as a max, that I kind of got into squatting a little bit, and I was doing exactly what a classic high school strength coach would say: wide feet, toes turned out, knees out, like you're doing a sumo squat, which for me just sucked. It hurt my knees. I didn't even really it didn't really work with me, but I didn't know that I could really try a bunch of different stances or elevate my heels or anything. So after I did it, squats for a couple weeks, and I'm like, this just hurts my knees. What am I doing? Well, then what am I supposed to do? Right? Keep squatting with hurt knees and feel like I'm messing myself up, or stop. So at the time, I guess what seemed like the best option was, man, screw squats. I'm not doing any of this. This freaking hurts. I'm doing leg extensions instead and some leg press, which not a terrible idea. Some people are going to say squats hurt and then they don't do legs at all. That's much worse. But once I got back into it, and I'm not joking, it really, my whole squat motivation, apart from everybody's watching the old Tom Platz videos, that's huge. But also, I used to watch a bunch of the Juji Mufu videos, and whenever they would bring, I've probably seen every Juji video where they brought Clarence Kennedy, this Irish powerlifter guy, Olympic lifter, I mean, and he's just a total nutcase. He's not a 250 pounder, or I don't know how heavy he is, but much denser, more of a, not even more, way more athletic. He's still jumping around and you do backflips and twists on flat, just grass, and then he's still front squatting 500 and cleaning 4. It's just totally nuts. But he squatted very upright, more upright than I can, because I can't put the bar on my traps. I can't really squat high bar. It just fucking hurts. I can't do it. I've got to rest the bar right above my rear delts on the middle of my traps. That's not super low bar, but for me that's about right. That feels the most natural for me. Another point of preference that could come into play. But watching him and all the Chinese weightlifters especially, I don't want to say just them, but they really are the best example, because when they squat, they're super high bar, which I can't go that high, but they don't even bend forward at all. They're just standing up completely straight and then getting into a crazy deep squat position, deeper than I'm going to go. But it's still a good example to look at because of just how consistent their form is and how quad focused it is. Their glutes are coming into play, but their quads are nuts, So as much as all these workouts are for the sake of, muscular development, there's no getting around squats have a little extra to do with it. Because I think, and this is a little bro sciencey, I don't have a study to back this up. I'm sure there is one though. But at least if I'm in an off season, or even when I'm dieting down too, but much more apparent in an off season, when I'm eating a ton of food and I'm super full, I feel like my strength universally increases when I'm doing heavy squats, just because of how demanding and complete, or not complete, but just how much of a majority of your body is activated in the process of doing a really heavy back squat, So it's I've gone through periods where I couldn't squat. My adductor was off, my knee was doing something, it just wasn't, squats weren't working. And I feel like my strength in total, as an organism, suffered. And leg press won't do it. Leg press will not do it for you. I think there's just something about it. Just maybe the total central nervous system load from basically, I'd say the squat is your body's strongest loadability. Your deadlift is probably up there, but I don't deadlift, so that's off the table for me. So there's just something about it, right? I think there's a difference between guys who can squat. I'm not saying they have to squat, but guys who can and they know what they're doing with it, and ones who don't. Now, I know it sucks because learning how to squat, it takes a while. It's kind of tricky. You can set anybody on a leg extension and they could probably get a decent quad pump. Even if they're, a regular sized dude, like they don't work out at all, they're going to feel it. But squats are a little trickier just because of how much balance and, just bracing is involved. But if you can get past the point where, you still feel a little silly, the squat is definitely a movement that I'd recommend you record yourself doing so that you can look back at your form and adjust. Beyond looking back at my progress, that's got to be the coolest part for me about getting to watch these sets back basically every workout, because now I've got two perspectives on how these workouts are going. I've got the perspective of how I feel doing things and like what feels good, what seems good in the moment. But then I've also got a third person view that I get to see later, or I mean really I could see it right after if I wanted to see what that set looked like, and I can say, oh, I'm leaning a little bit to the right, or my right shoulder is a little higher than the left on this, or just little things like that. So there definitely is a point in terms of improving your training to busting out the tripod, beyond just turning it into a workout edit or anything else like that. But yeah, tomorrow is gonna be quite the chest day, I can guarantee it. I'll definitely be back in there. So whether or not that ends up being shit, if I do an incline bench, I'm gonna want to do it in the squat rack because there's not going to be anyone in there to spot me. But incline bench is very rotator cuff heavy. Like if I don't really tweak my rotator cuff on incline bar or on incline dumbbell or machine press, it's usually incline barbell, just because it's a very constrained movement path because your hands don't move in or out the whole rep. I like it, but dieting down, not so necessary. Like when I'm in an off season and I've got a ton of food in my system, I'm full of carbs, I'm extra strong, that's when I want to really bust out heavier free weight sets. But when I'm dieting down, especially for something like chest, that is so, you're messing with a system that's pretty delicate with your rotator cuffs. At least, if you do something that just doesn't match that proper movement path, that's where I'm a bit more of a cable fan. You're gonna see me throw around some weight next off season, incline bench, incline Smith. But dieting, not so much. Dieting is a little bit more, or it just calls for a little bit more of a kind of squeezing approach, right? Like if I had to pick one movement for chest for this entire diet, I said this in yesterday's video, I think, it would definitely be just a converging cable press. Either like a standalone machine, like the free motion one, or just like taking two cable stacks like you see at any gym, throwing an incline bench in the middle, and then setting it up yourself. Yeah, so that would definitely be the one. Just because you can go heavy, but you can also go light squeezing. So it's kind of the best of both worlds all in one. So if you were gonna, let's say I had to pick, I've been on a kick of like every time someone says like what are the top 10 movements that you can only do for the rest of your life, I think I've been saying like incline dumbbell just because incline dumbbell is cool, but I think I'd actually have to pick that incline or that flat-ish cable press, because even in one press you could leverage more upper chest or more lower chest, or just straight up flat and get the whole thing in one. So yeah, whether as a little ender, whether or not you're working out in a freaking Gold's Venice or a Powerhouse or a whatever, or just a tiny ass hole in the wall gym or maybe one of your buddies' dads has a garage gym and you're the one jumping in there with their crew. But no matter where it is, just make sure you're getting it done, because that's it's this weird, not weird, that's not the right word. There's an interconnection, I feel, between people that are into working out, where beyond progress, beyond skill, beyond size, beyond accolades, when two people are really getting it done anywhere across the world, I think there's an extra connection. There's just a little something. Even if they don't know that the other guy is working out, or like maybe you know your buddy who lives in, or he's on a 6-month trip in Japan and he's doing whatever. I like the idea that I know right before that set of squats that I just did, someone else hit one and they might have gone harder than me. Someone else is doing their cardio while I'm doing it, and they're not complaining, right? They really want to do it. Or somebody's sticking to a meal, or somebody's eating a bowl of 6 ounces of ground beef and they're saying, this is pretty good, right? Just with salt and pepper or something. So it's the fact that we're all kind of playing the same game just makes me feel a little more excited about it, because I know it's I mean, shit, yeah. I guess any activity is like that, but in real life, it's just this open world where everybody's got their own kind of journey, and sometimes they cross. And that's the really cool part. A lot of those journeys are about to cross in about 2 weeks. Or not even 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, over in Vegas for the Olympia. And that is going to be freaking sweet. Yeah. I'm excited for that, but I gotta finish this trip before I start thinking about heading over there. But yeah, if you'll be there, maybe we'll pick a gym. I know Dragon's Lair is freaking awesome. I'll definitely be in there. So I guess that's all I got for today. Badass set of quads, or badass set of squats plus everything else. So now I just get to go home and eat something. So we'll see you tomorrow.